So I wanted to take a second, assess this whole entire situation because today, shout out to 78 Sports TV, shout out to the whole LDBC. Don't forget to tune in to the Smoke City Mobcast this Wednesday. And don't forget to sign up at ldbcsports.com. It's free, so get to it. So, in light of everything that's been going on today with Anthony Joshua, illuminated by the brother 78 Sports TV, the first thing coming out about this huge lie, this propaganda lie about him being given or offered $500 million to join the UFC, from Eddie Hearn now being upset that Deontay Wilder will not and refuses to show up to the UK unless it is to fight Anthony Joshua. To his most recent, which is now Deontay Wilder, and I assume that this is a counter. The Deontay Wilder is afraid of Dillian White. Wow. Where do I start on this whole situation? First of all, listen, nobody in their right mind believed that AJ was offered $500 million by the UFC, okay? Nobody. If even a troll who will come on here and tell you that he was offered for $500 million or like some conspiracy that they're squashing it because AJ loves boxing, it's bullshit. Okay, we all know that. All right, let's not fool ourselves. Let's not kid ourselves. Let's not go to that hyperbole. The propaganda machine that is behind Anthony Joshua is something to behold. I will say this, okay? I have to give credit where credit is due, and you have to give credit to Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn is a shrewd businessman, but a businessman nonetheless. And in the history of boxing, we've seen this time and time again, where 9 times out of 10, the shrewd businessman who is in it for himself is just that, in it for himself. I could go on about Eddie Hearn and the list of fighters in which he has used, abused, and then thrown away. If we look at just his most recent best friend, mind you, in Kell Brook, he had Kell Brook over there in the States hiding out, not fighting any legitimate competition up until he fought Sean Porter, and then he ends up fighting my mind, I just had like the most major brain fart. So Kell Brook then ends up fighting Earl the Truth Spence and ends up getting demolished, as most of us knew he would. But Eddie Hearn kept trying to sell you guys on this idea and this aspect that Kell Brook was literally the boogeyman at 147. Meanwhile, he's constantly fighting mandatories, and he was constantly fighting guys that we all constantly kept telling you guys that this is nothing more than a money grab. He was trying to make it the most money. Again, look at the common theme here with Eddie Hearn. Mandatory, 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 money, then throw you in with tough competition, you lose, and you don't hear anything else. Anything else. This is the exact same thing that's going to happen to Anthony Joshua. Okay? This man absolutely, he reminds me, it is almost a splitting image. Okay, with the exception of we don't know yet about his fighters and his stable, how they will turn out later on in their career. But this is almost to a T the template that was Don King. Almost to a T. Don King was friends with these fighters, talked about how much he looked out for them, talked about how much money he could make them, how he could maximize their potential, maximize their position in the social consciousness and the sport. And when it was all said and done, one after the other, after each one took a loss, he abandoned them, he jumped ship, he wasn't behind them 100%, he was only into promoting them sometimes. He put them off to the wayside because he was looking for the next big cash cow. This is why Deontay Wilder said what he said a few weeks ago, that Anthony Joshua needs to wake up and see that Eddie Hearn isn't doing nothing more but milking him. Okay, maximizing his potential as far as earnings, not talent, not legacy. He's maximizing his potential as per earnings, but once he's done, he's going to move on. It's inevitable. He will. Look at the... Can anyone sit there and tell me that anybody didn't find it kind of odd he started to want to promote Deontay Wilder? Now, you may be saying, well, he probably is using the Bob Arum formula, keep everything in-house. Or maybe, or just maybe, the stuff that he feeds you on 20 different interviews and 20 different positions and 20 different points and 20 different reasons why, right? And these same Anthony Joshua protectors will come on and tell you, no, what he really meant was this, and what he really means is this, and he's building the fight for that. Just take a second. Let's venture into reason, okay? You guys are venturing off into the irrational and the overly emotionally stimulated. Let's look at the rational. Perhaps he's trying to corner the market and understand that if he gets Deontay Wilder in his stable, he gets the guy he truly believes will run the heavyweight division, and he's trying to cover his losses. Because if he gets these two guys in the ring, he's representing both of them, like Bob Arum. Who wins? Neither fighter, the promoter. That is what it ultimately comes down to. This guy is a bona fide professional liar. We have seen them come and go in the sport of boxing. What Eddie Hearn is trying to do, he's trying to perfect the Bob Arum and the Don King formula. The problem is, and here's where there's the problem, and I'm going to sit there and tell you, and a lot of you UK boxing fans are not going to like this saying. The problem is that he's across the pond, as they say. He can't break into this market. Therefore, he's limited in what he can do. All right? That's one of the biggest shames about Joe Calzaghe's career, in my opinion. Joe Calzaghe was known throughout UK boxing, but and some, only very few here in the States, in the United States, knew about Joe Calzaghe. And a lot of that is because what ends up happening is that UK boxing gets segregated. This is where the money is. You know what I mean? The United States is where the money is. Why do you think he's trying so hard to get into this market? And yes, look what he did. He attracted a big-ass dumb ball. Who is that? Big Dummy Miller. Big Dummy Miller is going to be his ace in the hole. But I'm going to tell you right now, people here in the States are paying attention to those interviews, paying attention to what he's saying, paying attention to how he's moving. And what's going to end up happening is other heavyweight fighters in the heavyweight division who are from the States, where his aim is really to get to, they're not going to buy his brand. This guy right here, Eddie Hearn, is one of, if not the biggest slime balls you can see in the sport of boxing. I don't care what you tell me. You can recite to me what Anthony Joshua's earnings were last year, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. At the end of the day, he is hurting Anthony Joshua's legacy, because no matter what you say, the green belt, the WBC belt, is not around Anthony Joshua's waist. And when you look at in the anthems of history in boxing, people are going to ask themselves, well, why didn't this fight happen? And when all the hyperbole dissipates, when there's nothing else to be said, you know what's going to you're going to start asking yourself the question, like we do it when we used to watch Legendary Nights on HBO, Legendary Fights on HBO, and those documentaries. What does it all come down to? It all comes down to the guys who handled them. Now, do I personally have an issue with the way that Deontay Wilder is being represented here in the States? Absolutely. I feel Lou DiBella hasn't done enough. Okay? I feel like he hasn't done enough, and he has not done right by Deontay Wilder, but that's my own personal perspective. I feel that Deontay Wilder, being the WBC champ here in the United States, should be making, if not the same amount of money, or close to, damn near close to, what Anthony Joshua was making. That's right. You heard it here first. I feel that the United States, and I think what it is we've been hurt too many times. Our feelings, as per when it comes to heavyweight boxing, we've been hurt too many times, man. We've had heavyweights that just came out of nowhere, and we always thought that they could go overseas and win the big one. Okay, beat a Klitschko, bring that championship here, and time and time again, they were either fat, slow, complete garbage cab drivers who had no damn business being representative of the United States in the heavyweight division. And you're feeling the effects of that now. And I think that that's also reflective as to why Deontay Wilder isn't getting as much push by the American media as he should be. But that still doesn't negate the fact that this man is holding the main belt. That still doesn't negate the fact, not the main belt, but he's holding the WBC belt. What needs to happen, and what fundamentally should happen as far as boxing fans is concerned, what we need to do is start encouraging these fighters. Encourage Anthony Joshua. Listen, take control of your career. All right? Yes, we want you to be successful. I never want, and I will stick by this. I don't care who you are, whether you're Anthony Joshua, Manny Pacquiao, anybody. If you give your heart, your blood, sweat, and tears to this sport, I do not want you dying and, poor, broke, owing taxes. You know what I mean? Your life, all you have is your legacy as far as people remember and the stories of you in the ring. I feel personally that is a life that should never be for these guys, for these gladiators. So what I encourage fighters to do is to understand who they have in their company. This man, Eddie Hearn, will abandon Anthony Joshua. He does it when his fighters take losses. You very rarely hear him talk about them ever again. How many interviews have you seen with Eddie Hearn with his best friend? Go back and look online. Before Kell Brook lost to Earl Spence, how many interviews was he on left and right? It was Kell Brook is the man. Kell Brook is this. Kell Brook is that. We're best friends. Yeah, I look out for Kell Brook. Kell Brook, Kell Brook, Kell Brook, Kell Brook. What did he do? He went for the money grab, pushed this man to fight Gennady Golovkin, get his eye socket torn out, damn near, and then threw him in there with one of the guys who was considered a savage at 147. Because what he was trying to do was stall out 147 and maximize what his take would be. And look what he's done to Kell Brook. I think it's very simple here. I don't know any other way to lay it out for you guys. I don't know any other way to keep it constantly explaining it to you. Eddie Hearn is just like many other promoters in the sport of boxing. And I overheard someone try to come at Al Heyman and say that Al Heyman is just as dirty or disgusting as Eddie Hearn. Well, you know what? Al Heyman, I have my issues with as far as giving fighters that don't deserve it money. But the point is that he's helping these fighters take care of themselves. He's getting these fighters, the purses that they should have as far as when they're done with the game. And he puts on fights, competitive fights. He puts on fights where, it's not so obvious that they're trying to maneuver around a division. Now, do I personally feel that there are fighters who, and I also want to point out one thing, Al Heyman is not a promoter, he's an advisor. And he advises these fighters what moves they should make to maximize their dollar. Eddie Hearn is a promoter. Eddie Hearn fronts money. Eddie Hearn sits there and tells these guys that they should speak in this way, speak in that way, do this and do that. He tells them to do that because they've signed a contract with him and basically said, hey, here's my career, guided in this path, get me to where you need to get me, and I'll do whatever you tell me to do. But what if it's at the detriment to that fighter's legacy, that fighter's ability to, let's say, I don't want to say ability to navigate, but ability to see themselves through certain challenges. It's never gonna it's not gonna happen. Now, I've been on the record as saying I don't believe in what Keith Thurman is doing, man. I don't believe in what Keith Thurman. I feel that Keith Thurman sold us a bill of goods that he was never able to truly deliver on. And I'm gonna stay consistent. And the consistency is that at least Al Heyman tells these fighters to take your future into your own hands instead of a used car salesman from the UK. Excuse me. Who talks all that smack about you can be this and you can be that, and meanwhile all he worries about is what you can provide for him.